So uncategorized. The black and red books, the 6-volume history by Churchill of the Second World War. I was glancing over the bookshelf the other day and saw Triumph and Tragedy here. And I had just been talking to somebody recently about that game, so when I glanced over my 6 volumes here, I thought to myself, how many of these 6 volumes by title have been used by a wargame designer? So went and checked. Sure enough, there is Volume 1 by Churchill, The Gathering Storm. There's a game, Gathering Storm, which does for GMT's World at War what Days of Decision did for ADG's World in Flames. It allows players to simulate the diplomatic, economic, and political maneuverings that preceded the Second World War, either as a standalone game or as an expansion for a World at War. Designed by Bruce Harper, published by GMT Games in 2015. Oh wow. I'm surprised it only has a 5.6 gamer rating on Board Game Geek, BGG. Weight is given on BGG as 3.77. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Gathering Storm, both a game in its own right and a prequel to GMT's A World at War, covers the period from 1935 to the outbreak of World War II. Whenever that might be, like a World at War, Gathering Storm simulates the military, economic, political, diplomatic, research, and production preparations for the Second World War. Interesting. It's given as an action point allowance system, area control, area influence, and simultaneous action selection. So Volume 2 from Churchill is Their Finest Hour. Their Finest Hour was a title for the Europa war game from 1976. Designers Rich Banner, Frank Chadwick, and Mark Miller. Obviously GDW Games. Their Finest Hour is a 2-player game, recreating the military situation facing Britain and Germany in the summer and fall of 1940. This is probably Their Finest Hour. Well, in my mind anyways, Their Finest Hour is probably the most well-known of the book titles here as well. Well, no, not necessarily by wargame, but Their Finest Hour is probably the most well-known of the 6 volumes here. It's Volume 2 in Churchill's history. At 16 miles per hex, the maps cover the entire... Well, that's Europa scale. Okay. The rules use the basic Europa game mechanics as a framework, with specialized rules covering the historical situation in detail. Again, Europa. 2 21 by 27 inch maps. 1,200 die cut counters. Nominee for the 1982 Charles S. Roberts Best 20th Century Game. 6.6 for gamer rating on BGG, gamer average rating, and 4.30 for weight. Alright, so the Grand Alliance. The Grand Alliance is the one that I could not find a war game that has used this title. So, the Grand Alliance. Volume 3 of Churchill's history. I did not find it in BGG anyways. The Hinge of Fate. The name Hinge of Fate was used for a World at War magazine game from 2013, designed by Ty Bomba. Obviously Decision Games. Average gamer rating 7.0. Weight 2.2. Wow, that's low. From the editor's website, Hinge of Fate is primarily meant to examine the strategic alternative history possibilities inherent in the campaign that could have occurred within Poland and the Rhineland in September 1939. That's interesting. If the French had resolved to keep their promise to launch a major offensive into Germany within a week after that nation invaded Poland. Okay, I'm going to take... Oh, that's interesting. No, it's not. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the book here. Well, that's interesting. This volume is broken up into 2 books. Book 1 is The Onslaught of Japan. Sections include Australasian anxieties, the setback in the desert, penalties in Malaya, let's say the fall of Singapore, loss of the Dutch East Indies, invasion of Burma, India, Madagascar, Coral Sea and Midway, the Arctic Convoys, 1942. Yeah, okay, and more. And then you have Book 2, Africa Redeemed. The 8th Army at Bay. I guess I'll say it starts with a section called The 8th Army at Bay, followed by Decision for Torch. And it goes all the way to Problems of War and Peace and Italy the Goal. So that's quite different than what the term Hinge of Fate is being used to refer to in this magazine game. So Closing the Ring was used, is being used. Closing the Ring, designer is Ty Bomba Decision Games, but it is from the pledge link on the Decision Games website. A mid-sized monster game, can be played as a 2-player or 3-player contest. 3 large hex maps. That's large hex maps with 560 half-inch counters. Well, that's interesting. Large hexes, but half-inch counters. Covering the ETO, European Theater of Operations, from D-Day to VE Day. D-Day to VE Day. At 20 miles per hex. The main fronts are covered, excluding only Scandinavia and Greece. Oh, so it kind of sounds like... that kind of sounds like the Standard Combat Series 1 game. Wow, can't remember the name. Each game turn equals a third of a month. Units are divisions for the Western Allies and Germans, corps for the Soviets, but with a complete divisional artillery order of battle, and armies for the Yugoslavs and the various minor powers. The system is operational rather than strategic. The system is an operational rather than strategic derivation of the one used in Beyond the Urals and Operation Kremlin. No unit will have more than one step. So this is a proposed game. A boxed game to be designed by Ty Bomba. So that's Closing the Ring. That probably roughly corresponds to Churchill's 5th volume here. And then we finally have, of course, Triumph and Tragedy. Very high BGG average player, or average rating, gamer rating of 8.3. Wow, that's high. 2015, 3.24 in weight. I actually didn't realize it was that heavy. That was a little less heavy than that. Designer Craig Besink, GMT Games. Triumph and Tragedy is a geopolitical strategy game for 3 players, also playable by 2, covering the competition for European supremacy during the period 1936 to 45 between capitalism, the West, communism, Soviet Union, and fascism, the Axis. It has diplomatic, economic, technological, and military components, and can be won by gaining economic hegemony or technological supremacy, or by vanquishing a rival militarily. Interesting. Wow, only a single standard size map. Military units are, blocks. I did not realize that they're blocks. Should have looked at that as well. Mechanisms, area control, area influence, area movement. Battle card driven is what's given here in BGG. Hand management, secret unit deployment. Interesting. So it shows here under BGG, it shows 215 the Golden Elephant Award finalist and 2015 Golden Geek Best Wargame nominee. So well regarded, clearly. So gamers or game designers need to work on a game using the title and the general theme of the Grand Alliance here. Volume 3.